Right, first session of the off-season training legs today. I'm going to take you guys through this training session. I don't know how it's going to go, but we'll find out. It's going to be a fun one.
Right, what is going on, guys? So today is the first time I've ever done a voiceover, but basically I thought I'd take you through my first leg session back into the off season and just go through it, explain what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and also give you some tips on training itself. So yeah, as you can see, the first exercise I'm doing is leg extensions. This is maybe a quad dominant session, so the reason behind doing this exercise is just because it's purely isometric and focusing purely on the quads. So I'm not going particularly heavy on this. I'm not going to fail it, even though my face doesn't really suggest that in this part here. But yeah, it's mainly just get blood flow and get the contractions going in the quads. So next up, I'm moving on to the compound. Again, this is the first time I've squatted, doing free bar back squats in several months. So the form and stuff during this session is not going to be perfect, but as you can see, warming up, doing a couple of warm-up sets, and then moving on to some working sets. I think this is my last warm-up set here. As you can see, like, I'm trying to really focus on form, especially the first weeks back. It's really important, just to make sure that you're driving through the hips, keeping that back straight. And yeah, just trying to put as much load as possible on my quads during these, kind of keep my legs fairly close together, rather than nice and wide apart. Yeah, as you can see here, loaded the bar up, 140 kg on the bar. It's the most weight I've had on my back in a long time, and my back is starting to bend a little bit at the bottom. You can see my ass starting to dip a little bit, which isn't great, but I'm sure over the next coming weeks that form will be improved, as you know, I kind of get accustomed to squatting again. But for now it's just getting used to the movement. But yeah, when it comes to squats, you really want to retract that scapula, make sure your elbows there are nice and locked. As you can see, mine are kind of moving a little bit as I get close down to the bottom, which isn't optimal. Also, my main problem with this is that I always kind of look upwards, so ideally you want to kind of tuck your chin in and keep the whole posterior chain in line. You'll see here, when you go down, instead of looking up into the mirror, I corrected myself here, and then I still looked up again. You want to keep your whole neck in line with your posterior chain, get that ass out. But yeah, form's not too bad, I guess. Moving on to the V squat, which I'm kind of using as a hack squat movement. So usually I'll do this in reverse. However, I'm trying it this way at the moment, which is quite good. It's just difficult to kind of get the angle right and the foot placement correctly. But again, the idea of this one is, now that we've done one isometric exercise, one big compound, which is obviously quite a lot of stress on the posterior chain, but moving on to this, it's more machine based, less stress on the posterior chain, but you can put just as much load on the quads or on the working muscles, so it kind of gives your core a little bit of a rest. However, it still absolutely brutalizes your legs. So again, all these exercises are 4 sets on each exercise, so I usually do at least one warm-up set, and then it'll be 2 to 3 working sets with a back-off set, depending on whether or not I need to do that or not. But yeah, all 4 working sets, part of the new program. The rep range of this session as well is all between 7 to 10 reps, so it's a very heavy session. My whole training program at the minute is periodized, so in regards to the rep range, next week it will not be as heavy as this. It'll be more hypertrophy range reps, so it's going to be probably between 12 and 15, I believe. But yeah, here I played around with the machine a little bit. I'm just kind of like try different angles out for my legs. Moving on next, first warm-up set on the leg press. So again, this is probably the most amount of load that I'm going to be putting on my quads in this session. It's third exercise in, so it's the third and final. Someone's getting in the way there. Fantastic. But yeah, it's the third and final exercise in regards to the exercises that are specifically targeting my quads. As you can see, not a massive amount of load on there. They're quite fast reps. I tend to just get more of a feel for this when I do faster reps in regards to slower reps. It's completely person dependent, in my opinion. Obviously, moving on to the banded leg press now. So this is kind of my working set. Added some more weight on, and also added a band. Makes the eccentric part of the movement harder, and also makes it more difficult as you get to the end of the contraction, which feels absolutely great on this machine here. So yeah, as you can see, what I'm doing there, it's just contracting my quads, just feeling them, getting the blood in them, and really, you know, getting that mind-muscle connection, which is super important with every training session you do. You need to be able to, you know what you're contracting. It's one thing just lifting the weight, but actually contracting the correct muscle that you're targeting is incredibly important. So yeah, I will stop talking now and let you listen to what a working set actually sounds like. And that is a working set. So this is my second or last working set, I believe, on the leg press, and I went to eccentric failure on this. So I went to the point where I completed my my last rep even, and I literally just went until it dropped. I think that's the best way to explain it. But yeah, you'll see in a minute. I just keep going and going until I drop. I think this is super important psychologically rather than anything else, just to learn how to go to complete failure. A lot of people just simply are not able to go to failure, not because they physically can't, but because they mentally can't, to get into that place where you know, you go until the muscle completely gives out. You know, most people are just unable to kind of get in that, and even me, you know, even I've been training for what, like 6, 7, 8 plus years. Still now, at times, unless I test myself like I'm doing here, you know, there will be points where you kind of forget how to go to that point mentally. So I think it's incredibly important, regardless of your level, to test yourself. So this is a new exercise I'm implementing, which is absolutely fantastic on the hamstrings. Yeah, dumbbell hamstring curl, lying down on the bench. It's actually broken this bench, but it's turned into a really great thing, because it's allows me to kind of do this exercise fantastically at an angle. As you can see from the side, I'm really doing this slowly, really getting this squeeze in my hamstrings. It's important that you don't use your glutes here or your back to kind of like pull the dumbbell up. So making sure all that is locked in, contracted. Moving on here with the chains, so this is making it slightly more difficult. I am moving it faster, however this felt absolutely fantastic. This is probably the best hamstring movement I've ever done in regards to how I can feel my hamstrings, so you'll be seeing this one a lot more. Basically what the chains do is, again, it's a bit like the band, making it more difficult at the top of the movement. So what I'm doing here is basically just learning, getting my muscle connection with my hamstrings. It looks absolutely ridiculous, but just doing it without any weight on your feet at all is still difficult. And yeah, it's just getting the blood in there and really like learning how to contract my hamstrings, which is one thing I have struggled with in the past, and something a lot of people actually are unable to do. Moving on to dumbbell RDLs now. Again, this is an exercise you can put a lot of load on your hamstrings with, but you need to bear in mind that you'll also be putting a fair amount on your glutes as well, and if you're not careful, this can be quite detrimental to your kind of your lower back. So just keeping it, make sure you're keeping it all in line. As you can see here, my head is in line with my back, and there's no arching whatsoever. The idea of this as well is making sure that your knee does not move. So if you look at the crush my feet, but if you look at my my knees in this movement, they do not move. They're completely in line, and then all that you do is drive through the hips. and that is the session done. So yeah, not that many exercises, but yeah, obviously 4 sets of each. The working sets are proper working sets, and this is a bit of a condition check now, going into the off season. So as you can see, my legs are completely swelled up, so there's completely no condition in them at the moment. They're just literally swollen. But yeah, that's the current condition which we're going into the off season. Currently about 180 pounds for anyone that wonders. Last off season I got up to about 205. So I reckon that this off season we're going to push it hard. This off season we're not going to chase the weight, but I reckon anywhere between 215 to 220 is a good shout. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed my first voiceover of my training session into the off season. I'll be doing at least one of these each week. Yeah, obviously subscribe if you enjoyed it. If you want to see more, let me know what sessions in particular you want to see, and I hope you enjoyed it. Catch you guys soon.